Welcome to the Jeff Miller Show. Each week, Jeff Miller of the Jeff Miller Consulting Alliance talks with Podcast Village host Charlie Burney about trends in business, consulting, and much more. The Consulting Alliance offers strategic counsel and tactical support to businesses, corporations, and nonprofit organizations in the Washington, D.C. area and beyond.
So nice to have you here, because this beats snow blizzards. What was it called this time? Snowzilla, I think. I don't know what it was called.
It was called drinking tequila on the beach.
Oh, wait a minute. Now where?
Hey, Charlie, how you doing?
I was doing okay till you ground one in there. No, Jeff, you did the smart thing, which all of us wanted to do, and you left town the Friday before the storm.
We got on an 8:30 flight out of Dulles and got back Tuesday evening.
What did your street look like, and what did your driveway look like Tuesday evening?
Well, we had been plowed out, and we actually paid one of the teenage kids on the street. I said to him, listen, just by Tuesday evening, just have us dug out. And we were.
And he did it.
He did it.
Because the key word there was teenager.
Yeah, so we missed the event.
You didn't miss much.
30-something inches.
The only problem, and you referenced to me in your text earlier today, that the traffic has been extra horrible in the aftermath of the storm. Last Wednesday, not this week, last week Wednesday, I had to go to Georgetown. And of course, most of the piles of huge snow were still in the second lane on Connecticut or Wisconsin Avenue. And it took me 2 hours from Bethesda, where I live, to get to Georgetown. That was not worth it.
That must have been a real fun ride.
I was pulling my hair. I was late to a show, and they started without me, and there was nothing I could...
Yeah. The only thing missing was the crying baby in the back seat.
The crying baby in the back seat. Well, I did not miss the crying baby in the back seat, but I was going nuts. When you're late, and then you're late, you just kind of go nuts sitting. We should talk about that sometime. How do you mentally prepare yourself to be calm after you're, not intentionally, because I did leave... I left an hour and a half to get there, and it took me 2 hours. So the
question is there anything you can do about it?
There was nothing I could do.
Just sit back and accept it.
So I need to learn how to, I don't know if I mentioned this to you, my son calls it, I've achieved a state of calm, and I hope one day to achieve a state of super calm.
Well, you just need to find your inner zen at that point.
Yeah. Well, you were on the beach, and how was the beach, Jeff? I've never been. Yeah,
it was great. We were
to where you went.
Yeah, Playa del Carmen.
I've never been.
And we were one of these, all-inclusive resorts.
Okay.
And we just had a blast. It was about
what a way to recharge.
It was about relaxing, reading a book, deciding what time in the morning you wanted to start drinking. So it was just, 5 days of some real heavy decision making.
Well, how lucky you guys were able to do it. And it was just you and Betsy, right?
It was just me and Betsy. And I'll tell you, one of the pleasures of the trip was being, for the most part, disconnected.
Right.
Because we didn't have service for a majority of the time.
At the resort or?
At the resort, there was only really one spot where we could get it. And it was just... made life that much more relaxing. Yeah. And there's a place for technology, as we talked about before, but there's also an over-reliance on technology.
Right.
So we get back Tuesday night, everything's good. Mm-hmm. Wednesday morning I go to start my car.
Was it dead?
Battery's gone. Okay. Call them up, get towed, get a battery put in, pick the car up, drive home, get out of the car, go back to lock it up, go into the house. I come out the next morning, and the window on the passenger side is open. I'm thinking, well, that's really weird because it's cold.
Very cold.
I don't remember closing the window.
Okay.
I said, let's not think about this too much. I had a breakfast appointment. I drive over to my favorite place, the Woodside Deli, and I park the car. And I go to the passenger side to take out my briefcase, and I shut the door.
Yeah.
And I walk into the restaurant. I come out. The window is open. So here you go.
Okay. Keep going. Yep.
Everything in a car is computerized. So when they put in the new battery, computer programs reset or didn't reset themselves. Mm-hmm. So they had to reset the fact that when the passenger side door was opened, the window would go down. So
that's a freaky one.
Yeah, it was interesting.
So how did you? Not that this is our topic, but it is our topic. How did you get that fixed? What do you got to go to the dealership?
I went to the dealer, and I said, look, I don't know what's going on, and I'm not blaming anybody, but this didn't happen until
it doesn't really work.
The new battery in, and it's cold outside. And he said,
Yeah,
I bet I know what happened, and it's exactly what happened. So they just had to reset it.
Wow.
But that's technology, and it's unforeseen consequences. I mean, I remember as a kid being able, changing my own oil.
Right.
And now I open up the hood, and I don't know what I'm looking at.
I wanted to key on one thing you said. I just listened to I read a tweet the other day talking about technology, and we've all read articles about how people are getting addicted to checking Twitter or checking Facebook or getting, kids who check it literally 300 times a day. And one of the points of this was just what you said, that you and Betsy did. He was suggesting for 5 minutes or 10 minutes a day, do something without your phone. So when I go on the hour-long dog walk at night, I used to take my phone. I thought, well, this is a way I can check on Twitter and do something at the same time. Don't do it now.
Good.
I take it because it logs my steps or something, but I just leave it in my pocket. I don't turn the ringer on, and I'm trying just to focus on my own stuff, my own head, and calming down. So yeah,
calming down is good. My takeaway, and this is something I think it's important for businesses to understand, because we talk about in order to maximize efficiencies and to build an organization that can operate without your necessarily having to be there, we need systems, we need processes. And the systems that we create do not need to be complicated. The more complicated the system, the less likely that it's going to be followed. So
I got it. Yeah.
I think sometimes when we get involved in systems and processes in the business and implementing them, let's just keep them human,
right?
So that humans can operate them, and keep it as simple as possible. Clearly, some systems are going to be more complicated than others, and some systems are reliant upon technology, and that's great. Michael Gerber wrote a great book called The E-Myth. It's really he's the father in a lot of ways of business coaching in America. And far be it for me to criticize Michael Gerber, I don't, but the one thing, if you were going to critically look at the E-Myth, is that there's an over-reliance sometimes on systematizing. So it's, from my perspective, systematize 80%, humanize 20%. And never lose view of the human factor involved in running your business.
So that's beyond technology too. We're talking about computers and car windows, but that's business. Even if your business isn't technology, you're systematizing your business operations, but keeping the human element. I'm thinking about the Avengers movie, The Age of Ultron, where the artificial intelligence took over and had no human element. And one of the quotes at the end of the movie was, the robot said to the other robot, they will ultimately fail and die. And he says, yes, perhaps so, but I think you missed the grace in their energies, the grace in their workings. And I think you missed that. So it's very interesting what you're saying, that 20% or whatever the right percentage is, keeping it human is I think that's absolutely, the unwritten part that's always there.
That was the brilliance of the original Star Trek series, is that as much as science fiction was involved with that, that play between Kirk and Spock,
yes,
it always brings it back to that human element.
Yeah, and that was the secret sauce, really.
And you can play that out in a lot of different ways. There was a great quote, a great quote by Pablo Casal, the cellist, and he was asked, "Where does the music happen? Tell me about music. Where is it?" And he said, "It's what happens in between the notes." And that you can only experience that from a human perspective. You can only, if you need to be looking for that in order to experience it, and that's a very human thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, to paraphrase it, at our daughter and son-in-law's wedding, Michal and Ezra, and I gave the father's speech, and I talked about that, and I paraphrased it. I said, this is what Pablo Casal said. What I'll tell you is life happens in between the notes.
Right.
And it's how do we appreciate the beauty and the uniqueness of simplicity.
Right. It's very profound. Isabel has been learning to play the saxophone, trying to get in jazz band, and at first it was very mechanical. But as she got further, I said, honey, it's about how you phrase that note, how your mouth and your fingers attack that makes a difference from anybody who can play it as a computer would, completely technically. And you practice more and you get better at it, and you could hear at the end it sounded great. So your window's up and the car's not so cold.
Starts in the morning, heat's working, and the damn window is staying up. So.
That's the window's up. That's the title. The window's up. Well, Jeff, what I wanted to talk to you about is to sort of follow up. I'm going to try to cherry pick you for some advice. I'm trying to think about the coming year. We talked a little bit about it last time, but I'm trying to go back to your show and my shows and these new clients that we've talked about and get systematized without losing the human element, of course, for 2016, and to try. Sometimes it's overwhelming. What advice can you give me and hopefully our listeners for looking at the big picture and then sort of filtering it down when you've got lots of tasks and lots of balls in the air, and I want to get everything clean and clear and a little more organized for the coming year. And I suppose everyone probably thinks about, okay, we're entering in the new year, and what am I doing wrong? What am I doing right? How can we create a better system? If I come to you as a client, what would you say? You probably want to get to know me first, but what sort of things should I be looking at to sort of reload for a beautiful 2016?
So I actually had this conversation with a client of mine, Paul, earlier today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, interesting. So look, the big thing is always to understand strategically where you want to be. So number one, you do have to take the time. You need to give yourself permission to think about the 3 to 5 year vision. Where is it that you want to go? And for small business owners, that's very difficult to take that time.
I think it is. Yeah.
But it's the most important 2 or 3 hours that you could spend. And I've spoken about this before. I think that as a business owner, you need every week to take an hour or two out of your schedule, find a place, and just think about your business, think about the week from a strategic standpoint. Now, having said that, once you do that strategic thought process, and part of that is, okay, what are my strengths? What are our weaknesses?
Right.
What are the threats and opportunities?
Right. Okay.
What's the competition doing? What services should I be offering to clients that they may not know about? So it's big picture stuff. Now, to your point about, okay, so now we've got a list of things that we want to systematize or a list of things that we need to do. You need to avoid overwhelm. The most common issue that I see is people going into overwhelm because of the magnitude of what they think has to get done right away. And you can't get everything done right away. So if you've got 4 or 5 initiatives, first of all, get them all on paper individually. Create buckets so that you just don't have a huge overwhelm in your head. Create 4 or 5 buckets. This is finance, this is team, this is systems. Great. So let's look at systems now.
Okay.
What are the top 3 areas of my business that if I put in a system over the next 3 months will help get me that much closer to that 3 or 5 year vision?
To that vision, yeah.
And don't talk about the 10 systems, just the 2 or 3. And then timetable it, timeline it.
Right.
Okay, we want to systematize our hiring process. Well, what does that mean? Well, it probably means that we need to work on some ads. We need to understand where we're going to be putting ads. We want to put a system in place so I'm not spending 10 hours interviewing 10 candidates, but maybe we're bringing in 5 candidates at a time and having group. So that's all part of a system. There was a coach up in Baltimore, Coach Lee, who said something once that I thought was pretty profound. He said, you just need to train a piece of paper one time.
Right.
And that's the other issue with systematizing something or delegating something or asking somebody else, because it's going to take me more time to teach than I just do it myself.
Right.
But if you're just going to do it yourself, you're always going to just do it yourself.
Right. The tool that I would recommend people use, real estate agents use it, people who are making businesses and podcasts use it. So my partner's in Baltimore and I'm here in Gaithersburg. We have a shared Evernote, and the checklist is on Evernote, and our sample contract is on Evernote, and we can grab it and add. So the Libsyn has its own sheet of paper, and it will grow because I know the first time I write that checklist, I'll forget something. But I want to have that checklist when my intern comes in, so I'm not just telling him this stuff, I'm giving him that piece of paper. And I didn't have that last year, and I wasted a lot of time by not doing that. And now it's just what you've described. So I'm going to train that piece of paper one time. And then as it goes along and an intern says to me, you forgot to mention that we have to write a little something here or put in a logo here, I'll say, you're right. Let's put that in and add it to the list so that we won't forget next time.
Never underestimate the importance of a checklist. If you do nothing else in your business, have checklists. There's a reason why the surgeon puts an L on your left knee if that's where he's going to operate.
That's a great illustration of that.
So it's there's another program that I've been using with a client of mine. He's introduced me to it, and it's a great project management tool. It's called Basecamp, which you may or may
I've
not
heard
be
of
familiar with.
Basecamp. I think those guys use Basecamp. I have not. But I have heard of it.
It's a great way to track projects in real time, and you can create as many files, if you will, or as many projects as you need to. We've got about 9 different projects that are running, and it's just a great way to be able to go in, check in, say, was this deadline met? Was this deadline met?
We're creating a checklist page. Generic one will be how to post a podcast, but then there'll be Jeff Miller's, because yours is a little different and your logo is different from the other one. So I want to make sure that we grab the right one. So that's how, and I appreciate your going over the systems, because that's what Jeff and I are doing. The one thing we're not doing is having a regular discussion of our, updating our plan, and that sort of mini retreat that you're talking about every Monday morning at 8 a.m. or whatever, and to sort of review. And
well, those are 2 separate things, though, I'm talking about, Charlie. I think number one is strategic time to think strategically on the business, both long-term but even short-term.
Right.
Strategically, how did this week work?
Okay.
Do I need to make any changes next week or next month? Do I need to speak to any employees or team about certain things that I'm noticing?
Right.
That's strategic thinking.
Okay.
When you're working in a partnership, it's critical that you have a weekly managers meeting.
Okay.
By intention. Not a by-the-way phone call.
Which is how we're doing it now, which is what I wanted to highlight.
You want to have, the same way that you have a weekly meeting with your team, you have a weekly meeting with your manager. And that's the place to discuss, hey, where are we with this and where are we with that? And don't make it a fly-by-your-seat, fly-by-your-pants type of meeting. I mean, I do this with my clients who are husbands and wives. They're having manager meetings.
Yeah.
So the effectiveness of that will also allow for things not to fall through the cracks.
Right.
It'll allow for
you're absolutely right.
Lack of misunderstanding. Well, I thought you were going to do. No, I thought you. So it helps to bring a lot of clarity to the business. And as I've always said, if you want to understand what power in business is, it's all about clarity.
Yeah, it's all about communicating clearly. Yeah.
About clarity around the vision.
Yeah.
So it's all of those.
It's funny because you're 100% right, and I'm going to contact my partner later because we're doing the fly by the, I got 10 minutes here, call me, I'm in my car. Right. And it's we're connecting, we're communicating, but you're right, I'm missing that element. And boy, back in 1989, when I was on the team that built Queenstown, we had a weekly meeting, we had assigned tasks, and they all got done. And if you didn't do your job, you had to wear a little hat, you know. And these grown contractors, you know, these big, tough guys, they didn't want to have to wear the hat, you know. We called it the Bonehead Award. And you're absolutely right. And I think that's something that probably many small businesses and or families lose sight of. For families, I call it the family meeting, and I'm hoping, you know, what we try to do is on Sunday we talk about the week ahead. But honestly, I haven't been doing it for Podcast Village, and I wonder how many small businesses are not following. That's the thing that I think I'm missing, to be honest with you. And I hope some folks can take that away and add that to their, you know, their toolbox, because I think that I can already see how much more efficient any business would be. Certainly at my old employer, we had a very, very regular weekly meeting with a detailed agenda. So
circle it back to how we started today's podcast about technology and keeping things simple. What's more simple, what's more human than sitting down with your partner and on a regular basis discussing what's going on in the business once a week? It's very human. You don't need any technology.
Yeah.
The phone can be turned off.
You know, I'm going to get back to you and tell you how it's progressed, because I think that's certainly one thing that we are not doing, and shame on me, but I appreciate your aligning with me, giving me a little,
never look back and shame on me.
Okay, that's good advice too.
We want to keep moving forward, and we learn and we adapt and we grow much better when we're doing it from a position of being positive and mindful, as opposed to damn.
Yeah. Well, no, I appreciate your underscoring that. I try to talk about, you know, positive and opportunities. You know, don't look at this as a mistake. This is an opportunity, and I say that
room for improvement.
Often say that to my family, and sometimes I forget to say it to myself. You know, so that's very valuable too.
You do know that the most important language is what do you say to yourself when you're by yourself.
Oh, I can't repeat that. No.
It's an interesting thing to contemplate.
Well, Jeff, thank you so much. Thanks for telling me about your escape from the blizzard.
Sure.
And sorry you weren't here, but I admire you for not being here all the more.
Well, thank you.
It was clear thinking in a crisis situation.
It was clearly our pleasure not to be here.
Yeah. And I hope that sometime this year I can copy your example and go somewhere, anywhere, without the phone for a day or two. And I will encourage you and all of us to put the phone down, you know, for 10 minutes. And it's such an easy crutch now. It's so handy, but boy, a little while without it, it's pretty nice. Yeah. So thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Charlie.
Have a great weekend.
I'll
be in touch with you. Please give my love to Betsy, and we'll see you next week.
And happy birthday to the twins.
I will tell them. Thank you.
See you.
The Jeff Miller Show is brought to you by Podcast Village, located at Launch Workplaces in Gaithersburg, Maryland. If you would like to contact Jeff or Charlie, please tweet to @Podcast Village or @JeffMillConsult. You can also email Jeff at jeff@jmconsultingalliance.com. What story would you like to tell?